Lamed Tet Amid Beis. We're on 39b. That's what the Mishnah said, that there's a problem of buying an etrog on Shemitah. And the Gemara explained that the issue of buying the etrog on Shemitah is because the issue would be if you buy from an Am Haaretz. Because one right here, let's see, Lamed Tet Amid Beis, exactly. If you buy from an Am Haaretz, an uneducated Jew, the concern is that he might not use the money that he gets for the etrog properly, because the money that you give for the etrog, money that you give for fruit, produce of Shemitah, has holiness to the money. So even if there's a halacha that they can't do business during Shemitah, you can't make business out of Shemitah produce, but that's only if you do business in the normal way of business. But if you do, but technically there is ways that you could do business with Shemitah produce. If it's, let's say, maybe small amounts under circumstances, there are a lot of ways that business can be done. If it's not the normal way of business, it can be done during Shemitah. But the problem here is not the actual sale of the etrog that the person, the Jew, will sell to you, the etrog that was picked during the Shemitah year. The issue is what's going to be with the money. What is he going to do with the money if he's going to treat the money of Shemitah properly? And what are some of the laws of treating the money of Shemitah? We said you have to go ahead and use that money buy food with that money. You can't save that money. You can't store that money away. You can't and you can't buy things that are non-food. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning. And we said that was the issue that we had. Why you can't buy from an Am Haaretz? Why you can't buy an etrog from Am Haaretz? But what you have to do is you have to go ahead and you ask him to please gift it to me. Give it to me as a gift. He doesn't want to give you the etrog as a gift. You could pay a higher price for the lulav, and that he'll be happy to gift to you the etrog because you're going to give me such a nice higher price for the lulav. Is that clear? Why the etrog? Very good. The Gemara is going to ask you a question. Why are we only worried about the etrog? Why aren't we worried about the lulav? The Gemara is going to ask you a question. Why shouldn't we be concerned for the same issue if the lulav blossomed during the Shemitah year? Why isn't that a problem? So the Gemara said, we're now on the top of 39b, and he says the following: B'mei dvarim amurim b'lokeach min hamufka. The halacha that we just said, this is 39b1. When you bought from a field that was hefker, what does that mean? We said that the concern is that if you're going to buy produce of Shemitah produce from an uneducated Jew, he's going to store the money away for after Shemitah, which you can't do with Shemitah. Shemitah money has to be used up during the Shemitah year. And all we're afraid is going to take that money and buy things that are not allowed to be used with the money. He's going to buy a coat. You can't use money that you receive for Shemitah produce. You can't buy coats with it. You have to buy food. You could buy lighting oil with it. For certain things, they're limited in what you could buy. Like we said yesterday, just like Ma'aseh Sheni, when you redeem the Ma'aseh Sheni and you're supposed to eat the Ma'aseh Sheni in Yerushalayim, if it's too hard for you to carry the produce, you can redeem it on money, and you take the money and you buy certain types of foods you could buy with the money. You can't buy a car with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni. Similar to the money that you receive for the produce of Shemitah, you're limited what you could buy. So we say, but we allow you to buy a small enough purchase from the non-educated Jew, as long as it's not more than the value of 3 meals of food. What does it cost for 3 meals of food? Let's say 3 meals of food costs $25, $30, whatever the price is for 3 meals of food. That is what you can give him. Because if you give 3 meals of food, because that's an amount that he could go ahead and use for Shabbat to buy food, and you don't have to be so concerned. He's going to go ahead and store away that money and for after, for other types of uses or after the holiday. Good morning, Mark,
Morning, Rabbi.
and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so the Gemara said that, just to bring Mark up to date, we're talking about the Shemitah year. We're talking about buying food, morning Adam, buying food from an uneducated Jew during the Shemitah year, produce that was subject to Shemitah, that we allowed you to buy a very minimal amount, very small amount, and because that amount, if you buy a small amount, he could, that money that he will receive from the sale will use for food purposes. If it's only enough amount of money for 3 meals, so we're not afraid he's going to store it away to buy other items, non-food items. He'll use that money to buy food, because we said, Mark, that the money that is received from produce, from Shemitah, that grew during the Shemitah year, so not only the Shemitah, the produce has sanctity, the money that's received for the produce has also the similar laws of sanctity as the produce itself. And we said there's a halacha that there's something called biur. We know we have something called biur chametz. We have a law that you have to get rid of your chametz on Pesach. Before Pesach, you have to get rid of your chametz. And that's the bracha that you say before you start the bedika. You say, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, shekti Hashem mitzvot v'tzivanu, al biur chametz. Destruction of chametz. There's something called biur, also destruction and removal when it comes to Shemitah, which means if there's food in the field, the Torah, you could go ahead and you could take from that product, from that type of species. If apples in the field, you could take apples into your house. You can take oranges into your house, as long as as long as there are, and as long as there are apples that remain in the fields for the animals. There's grapes, there's whatever product you took into your house. Holzman, as long as that product is found in the field for the animals, you can leave it in your house. But once there's no more left for the animals, you got to remove that food that you had taken into the house and make it hefker and make it ownerless. And that is something that we're afraid. The money that was received for produce of Shemitah would be subject to the same thing. Just like that produce, if that produce would be no longer here in the field, you have to go ahead and make it hefker. So to that money that was received for the produce would also have to have a similar halacha. And we're very concerned that the uneducated Jew is not going to do that with the money that he received. So therefore, we stay away from buying anything larger than 3 meals, because 3 meals, we say he's going to go ahead, a value of 3 meals, he'll use that money to buy food, and that will be taken care of. He ate the food, and that's fine. But the Gemara says that's only by medvar mamurim v'lokeach men hamufgar. This is only true if you bought from a situation that you know that the field that the uneducated Jew got his produce from, that he sold you from, the field was hefker. The gates were open. The gates were not locked anymore, because during the Shemitah year, you got to open your gates. You got to keep the gates open. You can't lock the gates. It needs to be available for anybody to take. It has to be hefker, right, Ralph?
People buy something from him that's enough for 3 meals. Now he has 15.
Right. That's a good point that Ralph was saying. How would that work if, let's say, if multiple people, if I want to buy, and I could buy up to 3 meals, the question would be, could the next guy buy? Because maybe the next guy is buying, now he already has more than 3 meals. That's a good question. But at least, this week I could buy. Next week, for sure, the other guy could buy. But I could say. But the question would be, but also I would say that most probably it's that he will have the same way he has 3 meals for that Shabbat. Most probably, each day he should be. We might allow each day. each day of the week. But I don't know that we would allow more than one person buying each day. But that would be a good question. Now, the Gemara says, but that's only if we know if it was bought from a field that was treated with the proper way during the Shemitah year. What does it mean, treated the proper way? That it was open, the field was open. It was hefker, he followed the rules. But aval, now the Gemara says, aval lokech min hashumar. But if the field was guarded, was gated during the Shemitah year, right? And he went ahead and he's selling you produce that was treated not the proper way. It was not handled properly because a sin was done because its produce was gated during the Shemitah year. So now you can't buy that produce. You can't buy any amount of produce from someone who did not keep the laws of Shemitah. So let's say there's a farm, like the farm in Israel, right? And they did not keep the laws of Shemitah. So, and that meant they kept it guarded, they kept it gated, right? What does that mean? They didn't keep the laws of Shemitah. You can't buy anything from that. You can't buy produce from that person at all. Meaning to say,
when did they get a chance to fix that? In other words, every 7 years, right? So if the Shemitah year just passed, surely I can't buy from him next year for all 6 years. I imagine I can't buy from him. And then
you only can't mark only as long as that product would remain. Usually, if foods don't last so long, however long the shelf life.
So if he doesn't keep Shemitah, that means that those products I can't buy, but next year's products that starts clean. He has a clean field.
He's a clean field because he's clean field because next year products did not grow during the Shemitah.
I thought the whole thing is like not good. In other words, I was under the impression that he needs to fix what he did, and you can't buy from him until he fixes it. So
Mark, you sound like a banned Walmart vendor.
Hello, H.
You get another bite at it.
It's only the produce of Shemitah that would be a problem. Anything that he grows afterwards, subsequently, you could go ahead and.
That's a clean slate. It's a clean slate, right? The next season.
Exactly. It's not Shemitah. It's not Shemitah produce. It wasn't. It's not. It's
only that year.
Right. Only that year. Exactly. So the Gemara says, that's what the Gemara says. L'kech min hashuma, if you bought from a field that was guarded, so then afilu b'chatzi isur. Even isur is a coin. Even a half of an isur, it's a small amount, very small amount, like saying like half a penny or something like that, or even a small amount of money. Chatzi isur asur. You're not allowed to go ahead and buy any pretty much. So some will explain it means any amount you can't buy from this uneducated Jew if he guarded his field. Now the commentaries discuss what is the reason why we can't buy anything from this field that was gated. So some learn that actually the produce is forbidden. That the produce that grew in a field that was gated is not kosher. Right? Sometimes you can have something that's kosher, not kosher. If let's say you have the first 3 years of a new tree is orla, the produce is forbidden. You can't have benefit from that produce. It's forbidden produce. So some learn that a gated field, that produce is forbidden. You can't. That produce becomes forbidden to use. It's Shemitah produce that's forbidden to use. Others say it's not inherently, the produce does not have a status of not kosher, but it's a fine. We penalize the owner of the field who violated the laws of Shemitah, and that's a penalty for him and that's why you cannot buy these this produce from him. Okay, Mosiv Rav Sheshet. Rav Sheshet is going to ask on
Rabbi,
the
what's the difference of unkosher and not being able to buy it? In other words, you can't get benefit from it.
right. So the difference might be if let's say if he wants to give it to you as a gift, and he's not getting any monetary gain from it. So if
But he
you
gets a
say
gain from giving you a gift. He gets a gain. I can't give unkosher wine as a gift to someone that's a goy. I can't, in other words,
right. So meaning right. You're saying it's still considered he's really getting you're really getting a benefit. You're saying by taking money a month. Right. So they bring different. Right. Right, but right. So we'd have to would have to figure out a situation where where it's considered that he's not getting any. We'll have to figure out a situation where he's not going to get any benefit out of it.
you get it and you don't know it's from him.
Okay, so let's say he lost it. He lost it, and now can I use it? Maybe that okay. So let's say yeah. So very good. So let's say it's ownerless. Maybe that would be a good case. If now it became ownerless. So if you say that the produce that grew during Shemitah is not kosher, even ownerless. But if you say the reason is because we penalize him, so we don't. That could be a good case that I would be able to use that. That might be a case. So if that's why we have to understand what's the reason for the prohibition. Okay, so comes the Gemara and says the following: Mosiv Rav Sheshes. We are now on 39b1 on the first column. Mosiv Rav Sheshes. Right. Uminha mufka. You're telling me that if it's hefker, if the field was ungated, unguarded, it was hefker, shalosh sudot was too low. The only amount of produce you could buy from a field that was not gated, that means it grew properly, it was not grown in a sewer, is only 3 meals and no more. That's what you told me. And why did you tell me 3 meals and no more? Because you told me that we're afraid that the uneducated Jew is going to go ahead and take, if you're going to give him a large order of food, he's going to have a large amount of money and he's going to store it away for after Shemitah. Or he's going to have a lot of money and he's going to buy items that he's going to buy a car with it, which is not allowed to use money. Yes. Right. So the Gemara is going to come. Right. So that's going to be a good question. But the Gemara is going to challenge this ruling from a different case, and we'll see if we'll see how we're going to have to address Ralph's case. Umina mufka shala sudot v'sulo. If the non-educated Jew kept the laws of Shemitah, that he opened the gates, he opened the field, and you're telling me you cannot buy more than three meals, but I have a contradiction or a mini. I have a contradiction from the following. Hapegam, I'm going to show you different types of vegetables. That hapegum, hayavuzin, chaglagologos. Chaglagologos is asparagus. We know that's something that we're more familiar with, and shitim. These things of and vakuzba shebaharim and mountain coriander, all different types of gargish alafa, all different things, all the types of vegetables. Now, what these vegetables have in common, Rashi says, is that people don't put gates around these vegetables. Because these vegetables are type of vegetables that are not considered important vegetables by the eyes of people. And they don't mind, people don't mind to leave these vegetables, let them, they're available. They let them be available to other people. If people want to take it, they let them take it. So these type of vegetables that are available 365 days a year for everybody, people don't mind that people should go ahead and take these vegetables. So they're peturim and hamaser. So even though they grow in your field, they belong, technically they grew in your field, but they're exempt from maser. You don't have to take off maser. You don't have to give to the Levi. You don't have to. Mr. Ralph won't get on the deal. You don't have to take maser sheni to Yerushalayim on these vegetables. They're potem in a meiser. They're potem in a meiser, and because meiser, the responsibility of taking off types is from food that belongs to you. But if it's hefker food, but if the food belongs to everybody, it's communal. You made it, it's ownerless food on food. Then you don't have to take off maser on that food. That was hefker food, and the Gemara says, "V'nikachim mikol adam b'shviyut," and you could go ahead and buy it from any person during the Shemitah, and the Gemara's understanding, and it did not limit us in how much I could buy. So the Gemara's thinking I could buy any amount. And it says they could buy it from anybody, whether it's a educated Jew or uneducated Jew, or even MRS. And we know beforehand that we're worried about the educated Jew, we're not worried about. He's going to use the money properly. And therefore, you could buy this. We never had a problem. But the problem is we're worried about the uneducated Jew. Is the uneducated Jew going to use he might not use the money that he receives for Shemitah produce properly. And here it says, if you're buying this produce, that's Shemitah produce. This is Shemitah produce, as long as it's hefker, as long as it's something that's hefker, we said it is. If this type of produce that was hefker is able to go ahead, meaning hefker means it was grown properly according to the halachas of Shemitah. And it says the fish ain't kol kiyosebem nishma, because the reason why you could go ahead, it's exempt from maser, and you could go ahead and buy from anybody, is because this type of produce, you could bet your bottom dollar that this produce was grown properly during the Shemitah year. You don't have to worry about maybe this is produce that was not treated properly during the Shemitah. Because everybody leaves, all the years people leave this produce available for anybody. You can come to my field and take this. This I don't mind. This type of produce, this is small change. It doesn't bother me. So we see from here that if it's produce that is hefker, if it's produce that's not guarded, not gated, you say it seems like there's no limitation how much you could buy. And you before told me that if I only could buy up to the value of 3 meals. That was the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers, who motivla? The rabbi who asked the question, who mefarikla? He answered the question. Generally, most of the time in the Gemara, one rabbi asks the question, another rabbi answers the question. Because usually if you ask the question, most probably you didn't have the answer. But sometimes in life, you ask the question and you figure out the answer yourself. Right, Mark? Sometimes you ask the question, then you answer it. So that's what Huma Farakal, he answered, B'chdei man shanu. That the Mishnah that says that you have a right to buy from any Jew during the Shemitah year these type of vegetables, that's talking about, and you don't have to worry, because you don't have to worry maybe it was guarded and gated, because people leave this unguarded. That's also, Ralph, only up to 3 meals. Only up to 3 meals could you buy from this uneducated. You can't make a purchase, a deal that has a value more than 3 meals. Ralph has a great question. What do we do if multiple people want to come the same day and buy from this person? What would we say? That has to be researched. Ralph's question. But the Gemara is saying what you could do. You as an individual, you also have a max. Even though the Mishnah did not tell you the max, but sometimes the Mishnah was that's what the Mishnah meant. The Mishnah meant that up to 3 meals. Even though the Mishnah didn't openly tell you you have a limit to how much you could buy from this person, but that's what the Mishnah meant. The thing, meaning sometimes not all the details are written in the Mishnah. That's why a lot of times the Gemara needs to elaborate and explain what the Mishnah omitted. So sometimes omission, by not explaining something, you think it means everything. And then, no, I didn't mean everything. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you exactly the limitation, but that's about, obviously, because of that other halacha, you can only buy up to 3 meals because you can't buy more than 3 meals. And also, like we said, it's interesting. It would seem to be also lifnei iver lo sitei mechshal. If you go in and you buy from an Am Haaretz, you make a purchase more than the value of 3 meals, and we're concerned he's going to keep that money for other things that he's not supposed to use it for, or he's going to leave it for after Shemitah. That means you place a stumbling block in front of him. You set up the non-religious Jew, the non-educated, for failure by making such a purchase. And now he's going to take that money and use it not for food. He'll use it for coats or other things, but he's not allowed to. So therefore, you have a responsibility not to set up a non-educated Jew for failure for doing and that's also called lifnei iver lo sitei mechshol. In front of a blind person, you cannot give a stumbling block, and that's the issue. Why? That's the same issue by etrog that the Mishnah is saying why you can't buy the etrog from the Am Haaretz. That's the reason why I can't buy an etrog during the Shemitah year, because etrog has a value more than 3 meals. Etrogs are expensive, and if I buy the etrog, good morning. If I buy the etrog from him with value more than 3 meals, he's going to go ahead and buy coats or other things with the money. So I have now created a stumbling block in front of that uneducated Jew. So the Gemara, exactly. That's how he got into this whole. And therefore, Mark the Mishnah said, if you want to buy an etrog from an uneducated Jew during the Shemitah year, you ask him to gift you the etrog, and you'll pay for the lulav. He's going to want more money for the lulav because he want me to give you a gift etrog. I'll give you some more money for that lulav. You don't want to. You're not ready to gift me the etrog. You're not ready to gift me the etrog. I'll give you some more money for the lulav. You'll give me some money. Then you're ready to give. Okay, what are we supposed to do? How are you supposed to do that? What do you do? Don't buy a Jew. Okay, but that would be the legal way to do it. Is the first he could again.
He's receiving benefit of something that he's not allowed to get back.
No, because this etrog was grown properly. I mean, the case that we said you can't give, the issue of gifting that you had before was in a case when it was guarded, when it was
guarded.
No. We're talking about the field. The only way you could buy an etrog is it was a not guarded field. But even though it's not guarded field, it was done right during the Shemitah year. Nevertheless, this whole right. The owner, it's done right. It's done right that it's a Shemitah year. Morning Max, all the fields are open. Oh. But nevertheless, he has a big field. He went ahead and he had let's say it's open for anybody to come in. He went ahead and he took from his field that was open, and he took a lot of stuff from his field that was open. It was open field, it was open for everybody, and the owner has the right to take, like everybody else has the right to take. And he takes the best etrogim, and he goes ahead and he wants to sell it. So he left his field open. Everybody knows it's a Shemitah year. Everybody's off this year. We're not working the field. So he left it. But now he took in to his house those etrogim that were good. Now he goes and he wants to sell it to somebody. So we said there are certain doing business with etrogim of food of Shemitah food under certain circumstances, there's ways to sell it. Maybe not the usual way of sale, maybe small amounts. There's certain ways it can be sold. But even if you sell it, but the money you receive has certain levels of sanctity. The money becomes holy. The money. How do you like that, Max? The money that you receive for selling Shemitah produce has the same sanctity as the produce itself. So therefore, you can't go ahead and use that money for anything you want. You could benefit with it in certain fashion. You could take that money and buy other food. You could buy oil for lighting oil, but there's certain things that you can do. You can't keep that money and leave it, put it in the bank, and I'll have it for after Shemitah. You can't do that. But the Am Haaretz, uneducated Jew, we're suspecting, even though he left the field open, Mark, but now when he got some money in his pocket, there's a concern that he might put it away for a rainy day. He might go ahead and store it away.
This man does not have, only has Israel. Doesn't have only has Israel. Can't buy it.
If he only buys it, but you cannot. This Am Haaretz, you cannot. Exactly, you cannot. If you want to buy for it, I can. If you could buy up to, I'll tell you how much you could pay. You could pay him up to the value of 3 meals of food, which is very little. Yeah, so but that's the amount most you could pay for the etrog. But then the $15 of food, he'll use it for food. Meaning, if you gave him such a small amount of money, it's not an amount of money that you put away. The guy makes him, you make a nice deal, and you have some money to put away. But if you give him a small amount of money for, he's going to use it up for. We could say he's going to use it for food. So it's true. Therefore, we don't. But if it's much a small amount, we don't have to be concerned. If you're going to give him anything that's of significance, we're worried that he's going to use it for not for. We said he's going to buy a coat for sleep.
It's selling at $15. If he takes some etrog, he takes 1,000 etrogs off his field, puts it in, and he starts selling them one at a time.
But right, that's a good question. Right. So I would say that's a good question. So that would be right. So that would be a question if he's making multiple sales the same day. So that we have to ask, that we have to look into. Each day, I would say each day he can make at least one sale a day. That's for sure. It should be fine. But the other question would be, if you multiple sales the same day, you know about another sale. If I knew that he just sold this, would I be able to buy it knowing that he just made that sale? That's a good question. Now, so what does the Gemara say? So the Gemara said, to answer our question, the Gemara says, even though it wasn't stated in the Mishnah that you only could buy up to 3 meals of this food that was hefker, these vegetables that was hefker. Nevertheless, that's what the Mishnah meant. V'chein Omar Rabba B'chona Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi B'chona said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, one of the great rabbis of the Gemara, that what? B'chdei mon shanu. That the Mishnah meant up to 3 meals. You can only buy these asparagus or these vegetables that people don't mind leaving hefker. You can only buy from the uneducated Jew up to 3 meals. Now the Gemara says, "My mashma the high mon lishad the mezonehu." Where do Rabbi Yochanan says b'chdei mon, and where do you see that the mon? Now we know mon, in the Torah, mon is referred to food. But how do we know that Rabbi Yochanan was referring to that it means a language of food? The chsiv, we find vayiman lehen hamelech. We found that he also, it's a language of food. Okay, that he prepared for them a certain amount of food. So the Gemara now is going to address what's your name again? Forgive me. Shmulik. Shmulik asked the question. The Mishnah was only concerned about the etrog. You can pay for the lulav. Whatever you want to pay for the lulav, you can pay for the lulav. There's no concern. Give $100 for the lulav. But the etrog is the problem during the Shemitah. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. Lulav also grows from the ground. Okay? Why etrog grows from the ground? Etrog is subject to Shemitah. Lulav also should be subject to Shemitah. So why is there a problem with the lulav? How can I pay, Adam? How can I pay for the lulav? Why are we worried about? Okay, so Mark says, it's more like a piece of wood. It's not a food type of thing, and maybe it's not subject to Shemitah. But there are opinions that hold that way at the end of the day, that a lulav is not subject to Shemitah. I don't believe so. Right. I don't believe so. But lulav is part of a palm tree. So maybe it might be a little different. It grows from a palm tree, from a food tree. So the Rambam's opinion is lulav is not subject to Shemitah. There's no issue. Our Gemara goes like the opinion lulav would be subject to Shemitah, except the Gemara is going to say that the lulav here grew during the 6th year and was picked on the 7th year. You cut it on the Shemitah year. And something that grew on the 6th year, and generally by trees, trees we go after when it blossoms. Meaning, if you have when it comes to Shemitah, at what point is something subject to Shemitah? How do you identify a fruit? If something grew, if it blossomed in the 7th year, that's called Shemitah produce. If the apples blossom in the 7th year, you're an apple tree, and these apples grew in the 7th year. Good morning. Now I picked it in the 8th year. I cut it in the 8th year. That's called Shemitah produce because it grew. The apples grew in the 7th year. But if apples grew in the 6th year and I picked it in the 7th year, that's not Shemitah produce because that apple grew in the 6th year. So too the Gemara is going to say about the lulav. The lulav we're talking in the Mishnah, the lulav blossomed in the 6th year. You picked it in the harvest in the 7th year, and therefore there's no issue. It's not something to Shemitah. The Gemara says, lulav ba'shishit hanichnas l'shviyatu. It's the 6th year lulav that blossomed in the 6th year and went into the 7th year. You cut it in the 7th year, have a nice fresh lulav, but you cut it in the 7th year. If it blossomed in the 7th year, 8th year would be, but here then 8th year I can't use it. Right, I would have it would be subject to all the laws of Shemitah. Right, we Shemitah, you have to do it the way
Can't buy that lulav.
Right, but now we're during the Shemitah year. When do I need the lulav?
No problem with the lulav.
Right, if it right, I would have right.
Year 7, my lulav problem.
Again, in year 8, in year 8, but in year 1, I would have an issue. I have to treat that lulav like Shemitah, exactly, and I wouldn't be able to buy it from an unregistered Jew, giving him an exorbitant price. That would be the same problem. But who's buying a lulav? Who's buying a lulav in the 8th year so much? I mean, I need a lulav for the midst of lulav in the 7th year Shemitah. So you're saying, what about? You're saying it's right.
Now I'm going to go buy a lulav. A problem on the 8th year or the 1st year.
Right. So
I'm now buying a lulav from last year's Shemitah.
Right.
I can't buy the lulav from the Jew.
Right.
On the 8th year.
Right. It will be this. It will be this. I would have the same issue. How to deal with it in the post Shemitah in the post Shemitah year. I would have the problem with that lulav that grew during the Shemitah year. Correct. Okay, so the Gemara says, Ihachi, and maybe we could do, and maybe we could switch, we could figure out, maybe I could pay for the intro, not pay for the lulav. We're going to make the switch. But, right, and that's not, the lulav is not such an issue. Yes. Right. Right.
There is no lulav from last year. So the whole issue about the straw is that it's the
you know, we need. Yeah, well, also, but this is under the title of Shnat Shmita, if you're allowed to do things or not allowed.
Right, Shemitah produce.
How come the
The
guy
Gemara was
is
thinking that-
why is he supposed to go there and he's supposed to take on his needs?
But he has a person has a right to take more than what you can take more than what you need, as long as there's for the animals in the field. There's not a problem. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Fascinating Gemara, and we welcome Mark back, and we welcome everyone that's here. We welcome Shmulik, who's joined us. We'd love to have you. It's not the first time, and it should continue. All the best, everybody. Have a great day.